Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Vinitaly International Academy, announcing the 24th of our Italian Wine Ambassador courses to be held in London, Austria, and Hong Kong from the 27th to the 29th of July. Are you up for the challenge of this demanding course? Do you want to be the next Italian Wine Ambassador? Learn more and apply now at vinitalyinternational.com.
Welcome to this special 5-star Wines and Wine Without Walls series on wine, food and travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. For the next weeks, we will be focusing on a dozen trophy-winning wineries from the competitions that took place in Verona at the start of Vinitaly in early April. The winning wines are without doubt some of the very best that Italy has to offer. What I'm most interested in discovering are the stories behind the bottles, learning about the wines themselves, of course, and also about the people who make them, where they're from, what they eat, how they live. It's a fascinating journey that will take us all across Italy, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. In this special 5-star Wines and Wine Without Walls edition, I'm delighted to shine a spotlight on Cantina Aldeno in Trentino. Cantina Aldeno entered a number of wines in the prestigious 5-star wines competition, and all of them scored very high marks. So it's a real pleasure to introduce this important cooperative winery. My guest today is Marina Schmohl, who joins me from Aldeno. Ciao, Marina. Thanks for being my guest today and welcome to the show.
Hello to everybody. Ciao to everybody.
Now, Marina, the aim of this podcast is to give our listener the stories behind the outstanding wines that did so well in the competition. So first of all, I'd like to let our listeners gain an impression of where you are. Where is Aldeno and the landscape, the wine country? Really something about, just so they can picture this beautiful place.
Yes. So Aldeno, a little village. We are near the main town in Trentino, which is Trento. And it is a special place because we are very close to Trento. And in the same times, very close to the mountains that are near Aldeno, where you have possibility in summer and winter to enjoy the nature. And vineyards go to the north of the region, direction south. So it is quite a wide area. And we are in the south part of Trentino, in direction of Lake Garda, the biggest lake in Italy, of course.
Okay, so the Adige River is flowing down and you're in the wine hills above this mighty river, is that right?
Exactly. We are on the right side of the Adige River, and the vineyards are from 200 meters above sea level, and they reach 860 meters above the sea level at the moment.
Okay, that's very, very high. So I'm just picturing these beautiful hills rising from the Adige Valley, covered with vines, and an area that really historically has had a lot of small farms. And I guess that's perhaps why the Aldeno cooperative first began. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Aldeno cooperative?
Yes, as you said, Aldeno was founded in 1910 and was born as a cooperative like other reality in Trentino. And this was necessary to give the possibility to the lot of producers, a lot of very small vineyards to have the opportunity to bring their grapes and to have a value of their work in the vineyards. So Trentino is very, very close with the cooperative story. Cantina di Aldeno at the moment is composed by 380 members, which work 335 hectares.
Okay, so it's not a huge cooperative, but it's an important one all the same. And I think it's a very important point that you've made, Marina, that the cooperative movement was very important in Trentino. And indeed, today, as the Five-Star Wines Awards has shown, some of the best wines from your area are made in cooperative wineries. You explained as well that small wine growers wouldn't really have the ability to make and market wines on their own. And that's why it's so important to have this grouping of producers.
Exactly, that is.
Yeah, so these 380 members will all have their own vineyards, bring their grapes to the cantina to be processed and turned into a whole exciting range of wines.
Yes.
Now, a number of your wines did very well in five-star wines, and I know that the Cantina produces a full range of wines from Trento, from the Trento DOC sparkling wines through a range of white wines, outstanding red wines, and even dessert wines. But let's talk about some of the wines that scored very well in the five-star wines, beginning with perhaps the Trentino DOC Gewürztraminer 2021. Tell us a little bit about this aromatic grape variety that is quite important where you are.
Yes. So first of all, I would say that all these wines, so you mentioned the Gewürztraminer 2021, and we can add also Gewürztraminer Bio, and the other two, Müller-Thurgau and Pinot Nero. But important is to underline that these wines are the result of a project, so to say, a quality project, which in which the grapes are paid outside the official quotation. So it is given to them, it is given a value, and it is compared with quality. And that is important to say that this is a result of a special project. So the Gewürztraminer is the aromatic grape. It's very interesting in our area because of its strong importance in the nose and also the persistence in tasting. And the Müller-Thurgau is the last one which was produced in this selection. And then we have Pinot Nero, Pinot Noir, with its elegance. But I would say that all are the result of this very, very special project, which means also that the location of the vineyards are special. So they are all above 500 meters above the sea level. And we speak about heroic work because the vineyards are very steep. So this is the situation of all the wines which had this special.
Okay. Yes, that's a very important point you've made, Marina. In a cooperative, there are obviously growers that have different situations all around the area, and the cooperative is rewarding quality by paying a premium on the grape varieties that come into the cantina in order to encourage labor-intensive vineyards, these steep vineyards at high altitudes that will be yielding much lower amounts of grapes than grapes grown on the lower, flatter vineyards. And it's a way to really select quality, and that's very important. It's very important for our listeners to understand how a good cooperative works to really encourage the best wines. You've mentioned that this is part of a project. Is that what the Attesim Flumen range is, or is that something else?
No, it's something else because Artesim Flumen, first of all, we speak about the name. It is the Latin name of the river Adige. This is so. And then Artesim Flumen enclose wine. It's a line of wines destined to a big diffusion in restaurant, wine bar, and they are young wines, fresh wines, wines that are to be drunk within a short time. We speak about a good ratio between price and quality. So I would say it is an easy line, but includes wines that can be used in many situations. And Artesim Flumen, we have another line, Cantina di Aldeno, for example, Exclusivi. And in this case, we speak about a selection of wines that are made with special methods of production, for example. So we have many lines, many selection for every kind of need on the market, of course.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I think one thing that is really outstanding about the Trentino region as a whole is that it's one of the few areas that can produce wines across the range, beginning with the Trento DOC, this sparkling wine from the mountains, a really different metodo classico sparkling wine than, say, Franciacorta or Alta Langa. Tell us a little bit about the Trento DOC sparkling wine.
Yes, as you said exactly, mountain bubbles, bollicine di montagna. It is a very interesting moment for this kind of wines. So Trento DOC represents, of course, the one of the most important production in Trentino. This is due to the possibility to grow the Chardonnay and the Pinot Nero in very high vineyards. And we have to thank the climate changing because we have important excursion in temperature between day and night and in the summer, during the summer too. But in the same times, we reach a perfect ripening of these grapes. And so Trento DOC can really represent an interesting metodo classico in Italy and I would say also all over the world at the moment. We have 12 million bottles in production and 65 different producers in Trentino.
So it's a very important part of the Cantina Aldeno's work. Yes, I think it's something that our listeners should look out for. Trento DOC, as you say, we're talking about Chardonnay and Pinot Nero grapes grown at high altitude in the mountains to keep that freshness, that acidity, which is so important for quality bottle fermented sparkling wines, and yet also the ripeness that comes from fully mature grapes that maintain the acidity makes it a really lovely, important method, classic method, sparkling wine. So it's something for listeners to look out for and try to find, the Trento DOC sparkling wines.
Thank you for listening to Italian Wine Podcast. We know there are many of you listening out there, so we just want to interrupt for a small ask. Italian Wine Podcast is in the running for an award, the Best Podcast Listening Platform, through the Podcast Awards, the People's Choice. Listener nominations is from July 1st to the 31st, and we would really appreciate your vote. We are hoping our listeners will come through for us, so if you have a second and could do this small thing for us, just head to ItalianWinePodcast.com from July 1st to the 31st and click the link. We thank you, and back to the show.
Now, I know the Cantina Aldeno also produces a lot of wines from the indigenous or autochthonous grape varieties. And can we just talk about three red grape varieties that are perhaps not so well known, but maybe just briefly tell us the characteristics of each and why they are, really important expressions of the Trentino vineyard?
Yeah, good. A typical grape of the area, the region. So good. Schiava represents a simply kind of wine. Is rosato, fresh, immediate, fruity. Perhaps it was forgotten for many years because people thought that there were more important wines to produce, but Schiava has an identity in our region. And then the Lagrein. Lagrein represents a red wine which has the possibility for a good aging. It's a rape which is produced also in Alto Adige, the region that is at the border with the Trentino. And Teroldego Rotagliano, Teroldego is the typical red wine. It has a known denomination in Trentino. It was the first DOC in Trentino. It is a known area, the Piana Rotagliana, and represents the combination grape and soil in a perfect way. It's a red wine, quite with a good body and good possibility of aging too, like Lagrein. It's very near to the Lagrein Teroldego. They are, so to say, relatives.
Okay. Important grape varieties, again, for visitors to the area and important names. I often say to people that, when you encounter Italian wines that you're not familiar with the name, those are the wines to try because they're the ones that have the character of a region that, really reflect part of its history and culture. As in, for example, the Teroldego, which has been grown on the Piano Rotagliano for forever, really. Pinot Nero, on the other hand, is more well known. Pinot Nero, which received a very high points in the five-star wines, but in Trentino, it's expressing itself in a different way, perhaps from other areas. Tell me a little bit about the Pinot Nero.
Yes, Pinot Nero. Pinot Nero, the two ways of Pinot Nero. Once we speak, as in this case, of Cantina di Aldeno, a red wine, very, very elegant. I would say a classic interpretation of Pinot Nero. And then the other part of this rape is used, of course, in producing of Trento DOC as a base spumante.
Of course. I guess you've used the word elegance. I think that to me sums up often wines from Trentino and from the Cantina Aldeno. There's a balance and an elegance. They're very Italian in style, even if the grape varieties aren't always readily recognizable. And they're really wines to seek out. Now, also, they're wines that almost without exception can be enjoyed, demand to be enjoyed with food. Let's talk about the gastronomy of Trentino, but also of Aldeno. Are there local specialties? Are there foods that every visitor must try when they come to the area?
Aldeno is, so to say, in the heart of Trentino. So in Aldeno you can enjoy all the specialty of this region, and we have many. We can speak, for example, of polenta, and meat. So it could be wild, it could be lucanica, it could be the salumi, it could be pork meat. So we are a mountain area, so we eat sometimes a little heavy. And but this specialty combines good with many of our wines. And then I would mention also mountain cheese. which has increased in the last years because we have a good production and young people go back to the mountain to produce these cheeses. And what to say, we have also many lakes. And so in our specialty, we find also the fish of these lakes, trout, char, and then canederli. Canederli, what are canederli? Canederli are so an art of balls made with bread and lucanica or speck, sometimes a little cheese, and then we can put some mountain butter on and aromatize with a little sage, for example. And then our sweets. Strudel, of course, it's cake made with apples, not only in Trentino, but all the area of Trentino, Alto Adige, Austria. We have to remember that Trentino was in Regno Austro-Ungarico until 1918, and it is a part of the story of this region. And so the speciality are the result of its history too.
Yes, that's a very, very important point to remember, this history of Trentino, Alto Adige, only becoming part of Italy in 1918, after the end of World War One. And so these flavors of the cuisine, it's such an interesting mix in Trentino because we're very clearly in Italy, but the flavors do have this Austrian influence. Polenta, of course, being the food of the Veneto, the Tre Venezie, this almost like a porridge made from cornmeal that is the bread of the area, eaten with as you say, with cheese, with salumi, or with a richer stew, a spezzatino, maybe some game. And, really important to the diet. As you say, it's a mountain cuisine. Canerdli, which you mentioned, canerdli are one of my favorites things to have when I'm in Trentino. A sort of little dumpling, I guess you would call that, flavored with the speck. And to me, that's the taste of Trentino. What wine do you think goes best with the canerdli?
Yeah, good canederli. If you eat them with butter and sage, you can combine, for example, Müller-Thurgau, so a semi-aromatic wine, not so heavy, not so strong, for example. And then we have also the whites for all the fish from the lakes, so trout and char. It's combining good with nosiola. Nosiola is another local rape from the region Valle dei Laghi. But in this case, you could also with Chardonnay, with our whites are quite fresh and good minerality, not so heavy in alcohol, and so they are ideal also for dishes with fish from the lakes.
Okay. And with the Teroldego, for example, what would be the food you would say is ideal? Would that be a grigliata or?
Yeah, you spoke about polenta and spezzatino, and so why not good teroldego?
Okay, great. And with that wonderful Apfelstrudel that is from the Austrian heritage, perhaps one of your sweet wines.
Yeah, we especially also in the Cantina di Aldeno, we produce the Moscato Superiore, Moscato Giallo Superiore Castelbesino. It is a clone of Moscato around the Castle of Beseno, and there are only 4 wineries at the moment that produce this Moscato Giallo, and the wine of this wineries is Cantina di Aldeno, and I would say that Moscato Giallo, Moscato Giallo Superiore Castelbeseno compares very good with strudel di mele.
Okay, is that a Passito Moscato?
No, it is a sweet wine. Because we speak about Passito, our Passito is Vino Santo della Valle dei Laghi. That is classico Passito.
From the Nosiola.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
From the
great.
Nosiola.
Final question, Marina. What would you say would be the attraction for visitors to come to Aldeno? What should they come to discover, apart from, of course, discovering wonderful wine and food? What do people do when they visit? Is it a tourist area?
So it is a tourist area in this way. So of course you can enjoy the nature. You can walk on the mountain. They are very close. But the attraction refers especially for the cycling. Because we have a cycling way from the border from Austria to the Lake Garda, so you can cycle from Innsbruck to Lago di Garda, and you cross exactly the area of Aldeno. So interesting also for that reason. And you reach the lakes. So we have mountain lakes. You can cycle among the vineyards, and you are very close also to Trento to visit this very nice town, la città del Concilio di Trento, so with an important history also for that concilio, important period for the region and for Trento, of course.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds wonderful. I'm a cyclist myself, so cycling, vineyards, wine, food, walking. It's a beautiful place to visit. I can't wait to do exactly what you say, perhaps fly to Innsbruck and cycle down through the Alto Adige down to Lago di Garda. Marina, thank you very much for sharing this wonderful picture that you've given us of both the Cantina Aldeno and also of the Aldeno area and Trentino as a whole. It's been a real pleasure talking to you today. So thank you very much for being my guest.
We thank you, and we wait for you in Cantina di Aldeno for a nice degustation or a special events. So we are always open to our visitors.
Oh, well, I look forward to that myself, too. Thank you very much. I hope we meet soon.
You're welcome.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Vinitaly Academy, home of the gold standard of Italian wine education. Do you want to be the next ambassador? Apply online at vinitalyinternational.com for courses in London, Austria, and Hong Kong, the 27th to the 29th of July. Remember to subscribe and like Italian Wine Podcast, and catch us on SoundCloud, Spotify, and wherever you get your pods. You can also find our entire back catalog of episodes at ItalianWinePodcast.com.
Hi guys, I'm Joy Livingston and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com.